Everybody. We just thought we'd check in today and kind of answer your questions more than anything else. I don't have a whole lot. I've got a few things from the scrimmage just to update you, but we're happy with the 7 practices. They practiced again well this morning, and our theme has been we've been good. Now it's time to go be great. To do that, you can't have a bad day. You got to be ready to practice every day. You got to be ready to play every day. Every day is like game day. As we said earlier, it's evident that some people weren't as ready to play in the tournament as they needed to, and it's a great message for all of us. We said our thought of the day was from Mike Tomlin this morning that you can't be comfortable. You can never get comfortable in sports, in life, but especially in sports, because somebody will take your place. So we got to take advantage of every day. We've had really competitive practices. We're tackling a lot. We're hitting more than we ever have. The scrimmage, we came out pretty healthy. And Jeremy will be mad probably, but lower leg injury for George Petaway, and it was just a sore ankle more than anything else. But he was limited today and didn't do very much, but we came out healthy overall. And like I said, we're doing a lot more physical stuff. We've got to tackle better. We've got to rush the passer better. We got to protect better. So we can only do that full speed. I had a friend of mine tell me I asked him to come to practice one day, and he said, do you have pads on? I said, no. And he said, you can't play football without pads, and you can't learn to swim without water. So I think that's pretty much true. We got to have enough live stuff to have some risk of injury, but at the same time, we've got to get better. And that really helps you separate too and move guys up and down. And we're moving guys up and down the board every day. At running back, we know what Elijah Green is. We've seen him. Omarion and George both had really good days on Saturday. Tez Walker and Nate McCullum are very good players. We knew that. We've also been impressed with Christian Hamilton. He caught another touchdown pass today, and he did some things on Saturday, and he's playing like he's older. The main guy that stepped up in the offensive line is Willie Lemkin. He's tough. He's physical. We know he's undersized, but he makes up for that with his tenacity. And at Pro Day yesterday, Drake threw for about 45 minutes, and there was never a ball on the ground between he and Antoine Green and Josh Downs. And watching him today, he's really sharp. He had a great scrimmage Saturday, and he has picked up where he left off. Connor Harrell's gotten most of the white team reps, and Tad Hudson got more today. So we're going to let those two guys compete at the backup spot. But we've really got to have a guy that is going to be good enough to take over for Drake's spot, because we feel like Drake will have the year that he'll be out of here. I think yesterday the guys would have drafted him right now if they could have. We told them it was too early to do that. Bo Atkinson is showing up on defense, and he's tenacious, and he's competing. Jacoby Cowan the same. Those two guys are really in a battle at the power end to see who's getting playing time, and it's healthy when you've got that competition. KJ Binkley's finally well, and he's making some plays inside. Travis Shaw has lost a lot of weight, and he looks better than he has since he's been here. And it's great to have Tamari Fox back. He's so quick, and he's a penetrator, and some of the issues that we've had up front, we think he can help with. At linebacker, we know what Power and Power Eccles and Ced Gray can do. So Michael Short, Amari Campbell, and Deuce Caldwell are getting nearly all the snaps. Sebastian Cheeks can do all of the pass skill stuff and the drill stuff. He just can't be in the team stuff. But we have got to find 2 to 3 linebackers that can go in there and back up Ced and Power, so they don't have to play 1,000 plays next year like they did this year. It's just Number one, it's not healthy. Number two, they would get tired. And number three, if you get hurt, you don't have anybody with backups. And it's got us in a little bit of dilemma because we've got to play the guys and the young guys aren't ready to play. So your defense isn't going to look as good as the older guys being in there, but it doesn't matter. We've got to have them in some full speed work, and they've just got to continue to grow and get better. So Amari Gaynor looks really good. He's never played the jack position, so he's learning how to pass rush, but he's tenacious. He's really quick. He's got explosive power. We've been really impressed with Tyler Thompson. He had one great pass rush this morning, and he's got to get stronger, but he is a really good pass rusher. And that's what we saw on film in his senior year. And another guy that's really stepped up for us is Elijah Huzzy. He's playing some at star. He's playing at corner, and he just gets it. He's got tremendous instincts. He has got outstanding ball skills. I was talking to Dre Bly last night. He's got some skills like Dre. Dre said, I wasn't the fastest guy in the world. Well, Dre was fast. But he had instincts, and that's what Elijah's got. So we feel like that he'll be a real factor in the secondary and help us a lot. So the thing we're doing right now is we're working really, really hard to make sure that we evaluate personnel. That's the most important thing in the spring. We're not trying to win the scrimmage. We're not trying to have a game plan to see who can we get the ball to, can we get it to Tez Walker the most. Right now, we're evaluating personnel, and we're evaluating schemes because we've got some new things that we've put in on both sides, and we're doing a lot of red zone stuff to try to improve in that area as well. Had a long practice today, had 22 periods, which is probably the longest we've had since we've been here. Then we'll go back and have a good practice on Thursday, but lighter, and then planning on having another good scrimmage in the stadium on Saturday. Questions, Jeremy?
All right, gang, go ahead and pop your hands up and we'll move through them. Coach, you got a blast from the past to start you off here. We got Luciano.
How are you, hey, Luciano?
Coach. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. And thanks for your time. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. Okay,
glad to hear that. What was the most common question you were asked by NFL people yesterday during the pro day?
That's a good question. Usually they just want to know up and down, are there any concerns about any of the guys? And I started out, I welcomed them at 8:30. And at that time, I said, none of these guys have ever been in my office for any problems of any kind. None of the guys have ever had any drug issues. They're all graduates, but Josh, and he will be because he's a 3-year guy. And they're all good leaders on the team. So I said, you can get rid of all the personal questions or issues before we start, and then you guys have to decide if they're good enough to play for you or not.
Michael Coe.
Hey there, Coach. You mentioned Tez and Nate coming in looking super impressive so far. How have the vets on the team, Kobe and Gavin, how have they handled that competition for guys that should be playing a lot of snaps next season?
Michael, it's a good question. I didn't mention the old heads much. I was just trying to mention guys who have popped up that would be new on your radar. But those guys are doing really well, and they're really accepting the competition and competing together. Right now, I would think that the 4 that would play the most, if we just walked out there today and started playing, would be Tez, Nate, Kobe, and Gavin. And then the others are, of course, JJ's out, Christian Hamilton's coming, Dre Green's doing a lot of great things. I mean, the other guys will be in the mix. Dr. Chapman's he's made some really good plays. But I'm trying to press the coaches so much to tell me, who would you put out there today? And I think those four would be out there first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Jones.
Coach, got a couple of questions for you here. You were talking about the hitting and the contact. How much different is it than just a couple of years ago, what you guys were doing?
It's a lot more now, Andrew, and the biggest part is that number one, we've got more depth, even though there's some guys injured. But they're older. They understand it. And the second part is, how do you get from good to great? How do you get from 9 to the rest of them? And we feel like that the issues that we've had, we can't do a better job against tackles for loss and sacks unless we got some live stuff. And obviously the quarterback's the only guy we're not hitting. And I've told the guys, I'll make the decision on quarterback, run by him. And that's something you have to do because you'll get a quarterback hurt in practice. And then the same thing on defense. How do we impress them with, you got to tackle for loss unless you're full speed? And we looked at every tackle for loss Saturday on both sides of the ball. We looked at every sack on both sides of the ball. We looked at every explosive. You got to have explosive plays to win, and you've got to stop them to win if you're on defense. And when you're live, you usually don't have any turnovers when you're thud. When you're live, you've got a lot better chance for turnovers. So we just felt like that we've got to play the game more this spring than we have in the past, but because that's the only way that we can get better from where we are to where we need to go.
Staying on that, in addition to getting better, you've talked a lot about evaluation of yourselves, of staff, the program, everything that you guys have been doing. How much does this kind of ramp up the evaluation process where you're going to know maybe a little more about the kids now that you may have learned, say, in September a couple of seasons ago because of the extra contact?
Yes, it's really going to help us. And it's going to press the envelope more now. We open up with South Carolina, which is a really hard game. Then we got Appalachians, a hard game, and then you've got Minnesota coming in here. It's another great team, and then we go to Pittsburgh. So we don't have time to grow into the season. We're going to have to be ready to play like we've had preseason games, and that's where the scrimmages are coming in when we play South Carolina and Charlotte. The other thing we're doing, and we've always done some of these things, but I'm really pressing the coaches to grade every practice like it's a game, and move guys up and move them down, because you're going to lose your spot unless you compete. And I'm also asking them, Andrew, who's making plays? Who are difference makers? And I told the guys after practice today, some of you have a chance to be great players, and we've got to push you to help you get there. Some of you are going to be good players, and you're not ready yet emotionally to be a great player. You can't do all the things you need to do to get there. So we're going to need some good players, but we're going to push you all. And some of you are going to separate from others, and the great ones are going to play obviously more than the good ones.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ross, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Brown, wanted to go back to the pro day yesterday. Couple things. Was there anything that stood out that scouts or front office people were saying about Josh Downs or Green? And then secondary, like, were they asking you about Drake May? Were coaches or were scouts and front office personnel coming up to you about Drake, and seemed like kind of a preview for him for what could happen next year?
Yeah, Ross, really all of the above. The thing that they always are so amazed at Josh's quickness and his ability to catch the ball. He just has so much ability to separate on routes. They knew he was 4.48 at the combine, so he didn't run a 40 yesterday. But the ability to stop and start, and I'm telling you now, he and Andre did not drop a ball, and Drake put it where they couldn't drop it. It was right on. I was so impressed with all three of them, and I think they're all after Antoine Green ran 4.47. That really got their attention at his height. So he's in a better mix right now than he was before he went to the combine. With Drake, he would be a number one draft choice today, in my opinion. All of them are just amazed, and they sat there and watched yesterday. And we had all 32 teams represented. We had 45 people there for 5 guys. and Noah wasn't working out because of his injury. So that's pretty amazing that you would have that many people from an NFL pro day show up for 5 guys, 4 of them working out.
Did any scouts say that Drake would be the #1 pick in this draft 2023? Did they tell you that?
No, and I didn't ask them. I just know that
Okay.
they all said, "My gosh, is this kid great? He is a great player. Is there anything wrong with him?" And I said, "No, we can all get better. He's working on footwork." When you add to your offensive room Freddie Kitchens and Clyde Christensen, that's a load for new ideas and stuff and evaluation. And the same with Ted Monachino. You get new eyeballs on everybody. And then when you look at all the defensive linemen every day, and you've got Coach Cross, Coach Monachino, and Coach Chiswick all giving hard grades on all of those guys, they're listening and they understand that we got some of the best in the country that have ever done this, watching them every day and helping them with every little thing they do. So they've been great additions.
CL?
Hey, Mac, I wanted to dive into the safeties a little bit. I was wondering how you feel DJ Jones is kind of making that transition to playing safety. And I also wanted to ask about Jaquarius Conley. Like, is he back to the point now where physically he was before he got injured, or is that still also a process of rehabbing?
Yeah, first with DJ, he is a really good athlete that's very conscientious, that's playing like a guy that hasn't played safety before. He's getting better, but he's cautious some. He's got to tackle better. I was laughing with him after practice. He said he got a little stinger. He said, "I've always been hit. I've never had to hit anybody." So it's just different for him. But Charlton's really impressed. He's smart. He's got athletic ability. He can catch. He's sure not shy. So it'll be a process, but he gets better every day. I would say Jaquarius is closer to being 100%, but he's not there yet. And he's missed a whole lot of football. So he's working, he's trying. We see plays. We just need to see more consistency from him.
And is Derek Allen essentially in the same role he was in Georgia Tech, or defense? Or are you guys asking him to do anything different?
I think it'll be a very similar role, CL. The thing that we're doing with Derek is you've got when you look at Will Hardy's out there now in a yellow jersey, and he and Gio Biggers can do all of the Pascal stuff. They're starting to be able to do a lot of drill stuff. They haven't let Armani Chapman do anything yet. So hopefully he will be able to start doing some more stuff at the end of this week or the first of next week. Those guys, Derek's just playing safety, and we're getting a good feel of who he is every day. And when we get Will and Gio back, obviously they'll have a prominent role. And then you're sitting there with Don Chapman's playing really well. So you've got some good players that have been around. DeAndre Boykins is star. Then you've got Day Hollins playing backup star, and he's playing corner. And then now we're starting to play Elijah Huzzy some at star. So we're and then we've got some guys coming in at safety, at corner, and at star that can help us in the fall. So we're trying to really evaluate hard what we've got now, see what the role would be, and then see about the guys that are coming in, where would they fit? The guys that are coming in, so you all will know, they can be in Zoom meetings for every meeting in the spring for every position. So they'll be further ahead because they're looking at spring practice video. They're listening to the coach in every meeting. Then the coach can have individual meetings with them on Zoom. So Zoom has really changed all of our lives in a lot of different ways, but it makes it much better for the young guys coming in June to be prepared.
If I can just follow that, I don't mean to hog this, but is that new? Is that something that you guys are doing? The Zoom, was that something that's been done before?
No, we did it last year with the guys that are coming in, and it helps Will Hardy. He played a lot. It helps a Marcus Allen. He played a lot, and they didn't get here till June, and that would have been you just couldn't have done that before COVID and before Zoom was around, because it just helps you so much.
Adam Smith, go ahead.
Hey, Mac.
Hey, Adam.
I feel like CL's dominating me or something. That angle he's talking from there. I feel like I'm like his little son or something. Wanted to ask you about the offensive line, and it looked like to some of our eyes that you had Zach Rice at guard during the scrimmage on Saturday. I mean, have you moved him inside? Sort of. Is that the move with him? Is he inside now? And just what is going on there? Maybe on the offensive line with some of those guys that you're probably going to need behind some of the starters.
Yeah, Adam, one of the things that happened last year is only 5 guys played. And every now and then, Jonathan Adorno played a little bit. And right now, the starting 6, I would say, on the blue team would be Will Barnes at left tackle, Ed Montelis at left guard, Corey Gaynor at center, either Willie Lemkin or Jonathan Adorno at right guard, and then Spencer Rollin at right tackle. And the great thing with the addition of Willie, he can play center or either guard. So he is really a huge get for us, and he's tough and he's getting better. And he dislocated his fingers twice the other day in practice and wouldn't come out. I mean, he had the trainers tape it and go back in. So being an all-state wrestler and being 48-0 tells you something, but he is tough as nails. And what he misses with size, he gains with toughness and athletic ability. So he's really going to help us there. We moved Zach to guard last spring, and he's been playing guard most of the time. Trey Green, when he comes back from his upper body injury, will be in that mix at tackle. Diego Pounds, Caden Baker, those guys are tackles. And Malik McGowan's done better at left guard. We're really impressed with RJ Grigsby as a freshman guard. It's hard to put a freshman out there in the offensive line, but he's been very impressive in some things he's done. And DJ Gueth's getting more snaps as a backup center. So we do feel like that we're going to lose all these guys. Yeah. And we haven't played anybody except the ones that have played. We haven't done a good job of developing the backup guys, and that's something that we've got to do a better job of. And I really like what Randy's doing. He's Randy Clements he's got them all out there. He's working them really hard, and I think we'll have at least 8, and love to get to 10, but we've got to start looking at who the starters are going to be a year from now.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you.
Back to Luciano. Go ahead.
Coach, you got some great additions both through traditional recruiting and the portal at the wide receiver position. What are your expectations for that position during this season, and your thoughts on your depth there after losing 2 great receivers to the NFL?
Luciano, we've had great skill people since we've been here. And that's one thing traditionally that this school has been able to do. And losing Antoine Green and Josh, that's a large majority of our passing game at wide receiver specifically. So we felt like we had to address those needs. We like what we've got on campus, but you get a guy like Tez Walker, he's a lot like Antoine Green. You get a guy like Nate McCullum, he's a lot like Josh Downs. And then you have to look at who are the 3 best ones. We want to play the best 11 on each side of the ball. And I always get frustrated if a coach wants to keep a guy who's on the second team, the white team, that's better than a guy that's starting at the other position. He says, well, he's a left receiver. Let him be a right receiver if he's the best one. So play the best players. And I'm really, again, talking to the coaches hard about cross training and making sure that we always have the best 11 on the field. And that's where you may take a Kobe Paysauer and a Nate McCullum, who are both really good at slot, but one of them, if he's the third best receiver, needs to be outside and instead of being stubborn and have backup slots.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about Elijah Huzzy. I remember back in January when you were showing us clips of the transfers, one of the things you said about him was that he has an eye for the ball. Have you seen that from him now that you've gotten 7 practices and the other stuff going on? And also, is that maybe one of the instincts that you almost can't teach or it's very difficult to teach with a kid at corner?
Yes, we have not played the ball very well at corner, and that's an issue, and it's obviously something that we have put an emphasis on. We have to improve, and right now he's playing the ball better with 7 practices than anybody else on our team. He just has those instincts, and it's very hard to teach. He's very confident. I think he had 12, 13 interceptions at East Tennessee State. He's one of the leaders in the country. And he has come in with that chip on his shoulder like a lot of the FCS guys do and wants to prove everybody that he can play. And we were really impressed that he moved in so seamlessly when he moved to Star and started working there some, and he picked it up so fast. So he's smart. He's got good football knowledge. He's got tremendous hands and a great ability to play the ball. So if you would ask me who's playing better than anybody else right now in the secondary, I would say Elijah.
The other thing that you said was the need for the skill guys in the back part of the defense to tackle better, everybody to tackle better, but you want them to be more physical. How physical a player is he?
He's really physical. He will hit you. And he's not bashful at all. I think he's a very good football player, and he's a great pickup for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ross, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, I feel like we're just going through all the positions, so I'm going to hit you with another position here. Running back is a group where it just seems like you're loaded. And we saw Elijah Green with the ones, it seemed. But then behind him, you got Hampton, Petaway, 2 big recruits. Caleb Hood, I guess, is a little bit injured. And then also, Brish Brooks is back. How do you divide playing time there with, all those guys, especially with Brish Brooks, who was slotted as your starter, coming back for this year?
Yeah, Ross, it's a great question, and we felt like we played too many last year and never really got established with just a guy. So our goal would be to have 2 that play and have a third one that can come in special situations or be ready to step up if one of those 2 got hurt. Right now, like the safeties, Caleb Hood and British Brooks can do everything in drills. They can do everything in Pascal. They can't have contact in scrimmages. So it really limits us in trying to separate those guys this spring. And when Caleb and British have played, they've both been really good. And then you've got Jordan Louis coming in as well as a high school guy. So we're right now, the large majority of the snaps are the 3, and George got limited today. So you're down to 2 running backs. So all of a sudden you get really thin, and it looks like you got all kinds of numbers, but it's hard for Larry to separate them when they're not out there. So we know a lot about Elijah. We're trying to really press Omarion and George to see how much they can improve from their freshman year. Usually it's pass protection is a big deal for both of them. Because freshmen usually don't pass protect that much in high school because they ran the ball all the time or they were catching the ball all the time. So that's the biggest thing we're trying to do. is really evaluate Omarion and George this spring, see exactly where they are, and then you'll have Caleb healthy, British healthy. You've got Elijah, and then you'll bring in Jordan Louis. But we've got to get it to 2 1/3. We call it a 2+1 more than anything else, and then the others will either transfer, which is part of the thing now with the portal. I mean, or they'll have to really do special things on special teams.
Yeah, you're saying his transfer. I mean, you got a legacy player in Hood. You've got this experienced guy in Brooks, and you got these 2 studs in Petaway and Hampton. It's kind of crazy that three or four of those guys won't be playing, and you said they may have to end up transferring. I mean, is that kind of
Well, and you hope not. And they're great kids, and they didn't transfer after this year. But at some point, guys like to play, and we can't play 6-0. So that's what we've got to do. That's where Ross. It's really hard to evaluate running backs when you're not tackling. You say one of the most important things for a back, he got to protect the ball, but then he's got to make yards after contact. Well, in Thud, you don't even hit them when they get outside the hash marks. So it's nearly an impossible evaluation. So that's the other reason we're tackling more and scrimmaging more, is we need the backs to separate and see who's going to make plays in space and yards after contact.
Adam, go ahead.
Mac, we got to talk to Corey Gaynor the other day after the scrimmage, and it was a good conversation. Wanted to ask you just about him. And, he's a guy that never makes a catch or has a carry, but he obviously means so much to you. And just his decision to come back and play, I guess, what would be a 6th year of college football, if I've got the number right. Like, just your thoughts on him and getting him back, and maybe how that decision went for him, your conversations, just that whole area with him.
Yeah, Adam, I love Corey Gaynor. He's tough. He's smart. He's driven. He gives you every ounce of everything he's got every day, and he loves football. So you talk about the metrics that we talked about. Does he love football? Yes. Is he tough? Yes. Does he bring great energy? Yes. Is he confident? Yes. It's amazing to me that a guy transfers in from Miami, and number one, he gets on the leadership committee after spring practice. Number two, he's voted a captain. And he's been here 8-9 months. I mean, that's just unheard of. So I'm so impressed with him. And then he was talking about going out or not. He and Drake have a tremendous relationship, and I think both of them felt we've got a chance to have a special year. Let's don't pass this thing up. Let's come back and do it. And I told the coaches, don't recruit Corey. Don't beg him to stay. That's not fair to him. He's older. He's got a life. He can go to the NFL. If he doesn't make it, he can get in the business world. He may be ready for all that. And so Corey, he just worked through it, and it took time. And he did say, let me get through the bowl game and let me get through the season. And I just want to think about this thing. And he's all in. And man, he works hard. And I saw him out there yelling at somebody this morning. I mean, he is he works so hard. He's a guy that can yell at some of the other kids and they don't resent it, because he works as hard or harder than anybody. So he and Drake are really, really good leaders on the offense. And he's a guy that didn't talk to the media much. And Jeremy was cutting up with him and said, you've been around. You've got great personality. Why don't you show it to him? So Jeremy said he laughed and said, okay, I will, which shocked Jeremy. And then he said he did a great job talking with you guys. So, but that's who he is. I love him. I enjoy seeing him every day.
We have commended Jeremy for staying persistent with trying to get him.
He had to, because Corey said, I don't have time. I got to go to class. So Jeremy is responsible for getting that done.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you. And I do think I talked to Corey after he did it. He liked it. He enjoyed talking to you also. Maybe we can get him so he does that on a regular basis.
Let's see what's in the mind of Art Chansky, Coach.
Hey, Mac. Hey, about 3 years ago, when NIL and the transfer portal came into play, you heard around the country, out of control, out of control. Would your assessment be that it's settled down at all, or it's about the same, or it's gotten worse?
Art, I think it's settling down. I think it got out of control completely. And there were a lot of news reports, some probably accurate and some not. But and last year there were a lot more parents and kids asking for money than there are this year. And we talked as a staff to one of the lead enforcement people for the NCAA the other day for about an hour and a half, and he told us that you cannot be promised money before you get to a school. That there's no different than somebody giving you $200,000 5 years ago than someone offering you $200,000 to come, and they're going to start using that as an inducement to go to a school, and they're going to start making kids ineligible that accept that money. So that's a game changer. And I told them the faster they can do that, the more that word gets out, the better it's going to be. And there is no question that if a school offers a kid money, what's the difference in offering him money 5 years ago and offering him money now? It's still an inducement. So I think that the NCAA is learning more about how to manage NIL. The families are learning that a lot of the coaches that have offered them the money, that's illegal, and they could lose their eligibility. They're also learning that some of the collectives that have offered them the money, when they get to school, that money is not there. And if it is there, it's less than they were told. We have not had a person in recruiting so far this year talk to us about NIL. And that's different than it was last year.
One quick follow-up. Is there newfound faith in Governor Baker running the NCAA that someone is going to get in charge of this? I think some of the things that you just said indicate that, but is there a newfound faith that they're going to get their arms around it better than they have?
I think, Art, everybody's probably waiting to see. You know, you've got a governor taking over the head of the NCAA, and everybody's starved to have great leadership in that position, and they're excited about the anticipation of what may change. And obviously, Congress has gotten involved with NCAA rules, and a governor who's grown up in politics may be the right guy to fix it. So we all hope so.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, it looks like we'll finish up with Michael Coe here.
Hey there, Mac. Oh, just one more question about Elijah. I mean, obviously him coming from East Tennessee State, how does a guy that's that skilled and talented, you know, quote unquote, slip through the cracks and end up at an FCS school? Is it just a testament to there being a lot more really good football players out there now?
Yeah, Michael, I think it's two or three things, and it's another good question. You start looking at, there's so many players out there, and then you're not sure. We didn't recruit him. Gary Downs recruited him at East Tennessee State, and that helped us because Gary obviously likes our program with what Josh did here. So when Elijah went in the portal and he would ask Gary about us, then Gary was complimentary. But you're not sure what size he was then. You're not sure what kind of team he played on. Maybe he played quarterback instead of corner, and people didn't project him. He was a really good basketball player. In fact, I think he was offered some scholarships at smaller schools in basketball. And that's probably part of the hand-eye coordination that helps him so much at corner. But it's a really good question. But I do think the transfer portal is making it much more difficult to have consistency at the FCS level. because the best players at the FCS are wanting to play up. So when they get in the portal, people are all over them. And we have found that when we take Willie Lampkin from Coastal, we take Tez Walker from Kent State, we take Elijah, for instance, they are so hungry and they've got such a chip on their shoulder to prove that they can play at this level because they weren't recruited at this level for whatever reason. And those guys come in and they are on fire and they are fighting hard every minute of every day to get a job. And I do think that is a factor. You get one from a prominent school that was very highly recruited, he may be a little cooler at first. So I think that's one thing we found is if you can find the right guy at the group of five or at the FCS level, they're coming in with a chip on that shoulder to prove that they should have been here in the first place.
Thanks, Coach.
Anything
Hey,
else,
gang,
guys?
anything else?
Mac, we appreciate
I
it.
think we're good, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Talk soon. Just let Jeremy know if you need anything from me or anytime you want to do this, we'll do it. So it's easy with Zoom if you don't have to come over here too. So if you get so you want some updates, just let me know.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Coach.
Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
We appreciate it,
Thank you
Matt.
very much.
See y'all.
See ya.